Passion projects or hobbies? Well, obviously Gilded Rage Press, which we'll get to in the next question. In the midst of the craziness of life and the craziness of the world and the craziness of technology, I was given advice from a beautiful speaker, and the speaker advised going off screens at the end of the day, as well as first thing in the morning. And so I have started to read again. I now read for an hour before bed, about an hour, maybe a half hour, and a half hour in the morning. And it has sort of changed my life. I know that I read so much for work as it is, but to get to read again for pleasure after about 10 years of not doing it has really completely and utterly changed my life. So I can honestly say that once again, reading for pleasure has entered back into my life. I do love yoga, and I love to dance, and I love to ride my bike. So those are the things that keep joy in my body and in my spirit. Today I found myself teaching a class at NYU on audiobook narration, on the craft of audiobook narration. And one of the things I was saying to them is, this is an entrepreneur's market. So if you have an idea, if there's something that you wish to do, do it. Do it now, because when I was your age, I wish that I had written more. I wish that I had put my writing out in the world. I wish that I had offered myself as a multidisciplinary performer rather than just as an actor, which is what I did when I came out of school. I wish now I think I'm selling myself as a multidisciplinary performer, creator, CEO, and entrepreneur. In terms of narration, there are so many remarkable things I've done with friends of late, and the most remarkable of all of them is with Therese, is the Nobody's Girl, of which I only read the introduction and wept my way through it, and I am listening to Therese do the rest. And her recording, I think, is the best work of her career. I think it's extraordinary. So what am I looking forward to this holiday season? Well, I will tell you, one of the things I'm looking forward to is that Therese and I are going to do a pajama snuggle Hallmark movie date. I'm extremely excited about that. I'm also looking forward to time and space, a little bit of breathing room, and time to really meditate and clean and clear out my space and make way for some new projects and inspiration and heart opening and joy moving forward into the new year. So I look forward to that kind of quiet in order to be able to have some real transformation happen. Very lastly, if I could tell my 10-year-old self something about your life today, what would it be? I think I would tell my 10-year-old self that I live a life that is fascinating and magical, and that looks nothing like anything she could possibly imagine. But I would say to her, do not despair, because there are cats. Okay, now on to Gilded Rage Press. Back in 2014, I moved to Denver and began to write a romance novel. And primarily, the reason why I began to write, this was the Bod Squad series, which I subsequently sold to Simon & Schuster's Pocket Books and came out in 2015 and 2016. It was a 3-book series. And when I moved to Denver, I just didn't know many people. And when I think back on it now, I think about myself like sitting in, primarily there was one place I adored. It was the most wonderful place. And I wrote so much of this first book of the series there, but it was really because I didn't know anyone and because I was dreaming of romance. And so I began writing there, and I wrote this book series. And since that time, I've written a massive handful of essays. I have produced work with Love Bites Originals, which is in partnership with Queer Crush Productions. That's Emily Woozeller and Ronnie Butler and I have formed a partnership of producing short form, mostly audio, short form, serialized audio, bite-sized love stories that was geared towards the LGBTQ plus community as well as the BIPOC community. Here I am with all of this other writing, half novels I've written, other essays I've written. And finally, I just thought to myself, I just want there to be a space where I can put all of my writing up. I want there to be a space that is a community space where we can come like joining around a water cooler to have the kinds of activist, political, feminist conversations that I love and am passionate about, and that govern a lot of who I am as an artist. I had this vision of the way people used to hand out pamphlets in the streets, pamphlets about women's rights and where to get an abortion. Here's this, here, are you in trouble, young lady? Here's this pamphlet, which will tell you. Or like, hey, are you interested in women's rights? Here's this pamphlet. Or, hey, are you like against the ruling party? Here's this pamphlet. And I love this idea. There's going to be a pamphlet corner. I just have to kind of figure it out on Gilded Rage Press, because I want there to be a space for pamphlets and for this kind of conversation. So this is my kind of madness. I'm endlessly creative and endlessly interested in putting together spaces for people to be entrepreneurial and to post their own work. And so I came up with this idea of Gilded Rage Press. I don't remember how I came quite up with the name, but it was something about the idea of gilded cage, right? That's what I really wanted to pun with, although there's also Gilded Age, of course, but it's really the gilded cage, this idea of women being imprisoned in some way or being like kept like little birds, that I like turning that on its head for Gilded Rage. And part of what was exciting to me is that I really did learn from Love Bites Originals and Queer Crush Productions and the work I've been doing with Emily and Ronnie. I learned how to create and format a whole book using publishing software and then using Canva to put in the ornamental breaks that I wanted and the different images at the top of every chapter. A Bagel for Your Thoughts, a New York fable, is my version of a New York rom-com. It centers around the department of an online food magazine. The lead of the first book is Mimi, who writes a column called A Bagel for Your Thoughts. And the fun about it, and the fun about all the books in the series, because I plan to write lots more of them, is that it begins and ends with a bagel somehow. So this one begins with a mixed up bagel order. That's how the book begins. And it stems from real life, because I had, at one point, I got the wrong bagel order. I ordered bagels. I got the wrong one. And I thought to myself, I wonder if there's a guy somewhere who got my bagel order. And then I started to think about the romance of that. I kind of didn't like the bagel order. Like, I was like, who orders this? What a weird order. But, oh, well, there's a pastry. So that was nice. I began to wonder, and I spoke with Joe Ward, who is an amazing director. We were working together. We were talking about this idea. He's a filmmaker, among other things, and he was talking about the film version of what it would look like if you see, like in the film, two people each in their own apartments opening up their bags of bagels and being like, what is this? What, and then that turns out to be the beginning of a romance, like switched bagels. That is coming out today, and it is meant to bring light, a sexy little spark in the darkness, we keep saying, because I want to put work out in the world that brings light to the world.